Sutton Conservation Commission for the 18th of October, 7 o'clock, 3.5 Overview Drive, Oakview.
Yeah, I had sent everybody the paperwork that came in from the email about why the work was being done down there.
Yep.
And it had a lot to do with the mosquito control project. So, the paperwork that I sent you with the emails, I did not print and give them to you. I figured everybody had read them last week when I sent them. So,
No,
are you here for this one?
don't know.
No, okay, because I didn't know he was here. So, I don't know what to do with this. A gentleman called, Mr. Bernard called, and he sent me all this. The girl from the mosquito control too, Katrina, she talked to me too, and said that this was a project that had to go forward, and that they kind of supersede us.
It
And
is-
that's what was going on
Mosquito
down
control
there.
projects are exempt from filing. And believe me, there's a lot of folks that take advantage of it, but mosquito control oversees the project, so not much can be done.
So I'll just
If you
keep
don't
this
like
in a
it.
file, and we'll just, if something else goes on, we'll have all that
I
information.
had a project in the town of Dayton where a guy wanted to, basically what he wanted to do was dry out a field so he could put cows in there. And
And all he is.
he called it mosquito control because the ditch, which was really a stream, the field was kind of backing up and slow and meandering. He had mosquito control going in and channel it right out. And they couldn't touch him.
Good to know.
Wonder who
Smart guy.
made the
You know.
initial complaint.
I did. I underlined
I
it.
don't know, it came in through, somebody called.
That came in through the town of
It
Millbury.
came on through downstairs, so I don't know where the initial
Okay, no, I
complaint
just
came from.
felt that whoever called, we should respond to if we knew.
Yeah, I know.
Who
Well,
called,
I'll-
that's all.
I'll mention it to Debbie, but I think I had sent them the paperwork too.
And isn't a lot of this work happening on the Millbury side of the line?
Right.
It's, yeah,
So
And the girl
why
said,
why does Sutton have to,
well, the girl said that she notified Milton Conservation, but she didn't think she had to notify us because she didn't realize it was on the Sutton line and part of the work was in Sutton. And it was funny, I went by the trucks one morning and I thought, oh, I wonder what they're doing. Didn't think nothing of it because it was in Milburn. It wasn't as far up.
everything I see here that was sent to us has regarding Sutton Road, Millbury.
Right. Because
So,
that's what it's called,
I
Sutton
mean-
Road.
it's right on the line. Remember we had the guy in, last year or so?
It's been a couple times.
Yeah. Because he was filling in and there was the
He was storing
stone
stuff,
wall and,
he was storing stuff in the buffer zone.
yeah,
So it's close to Sutton, but it's not in Sutton.
well, a section
But
of
his
it.
house is.
His house is in Sutton,
Right,
yeah.
but the actual red dot is where the work took place.
Right.
And it's in Millbury. And it's an exempt mosquito control project. So I can understand how somebody might be concerned, and maybe if there was a big washout and a lot of sediment running down into Sutton and it's affecting a wetland or somebody's property, sure, maybe we look at it, but otherwise, it's a untouchable kind of project.
So I guess we don't do anything.
Sounds right to me. 7:05, 28 Wheelock Road, looking to continue it to December 6th.
Make a motion to continue to December 6th at 7:05.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Board business. Seeing as we've got quite a bit of time. Police station at 489. Thinking they're good to
The
go.
revised plans came in, I had Jeff
Howland.
Howland sign a 21-day waiver,
Mhm.
so we didn't have to get him the order of conditions within the state mandated 21 days, and he had no problem with it. He signed it, sent it in,
It's in the file.
it's in the file. And what I told him is that the Conservation Commission will get the order out as soon as possible, but they would like the opportunity to discuss it quickly on the 18th. He's welcome to come or not to come. So, you know, any discussion on it? As far as I can see, they've done everything that was asked of them. And the order of condition is now ready to go, and I have the revised plan sheets, and I can reference them, and it's ready.
Just want to see that.
You can't sign it.
That's
Just the revised
All
plan.
signed.
it's actually already signed. You just need
I got a copy here as well.
Sign
It
it.
should be, says received October 11.
Yes,
Yes, we had to sign those.
I think so, don't we?
Yeah.
The only comment you had on it, Bob, was that the containment thing was just ridiculously large.
Yes.
For the flood drains.
Not a conservation issue, but Bob, did you see what they're fueling the generator with? For that, the backup generator?
Diesel.
Diesel.
Why would they do that if they had 5,000 gallons of underground propane?
Trying to apply common sense now.
I asked,
I asked the same.
I asked that question and nobody,
sign that one,
they said,
right?
I don't know. Because, you know, diesel does go stale after a while.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and condensation problems, the gas goes.
Right, well, it's more, yeah, it's more
Right
water
there.
intrusion than anything.
You want,
Oh, did everybody sign the plans?
we just did.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, that's the one that's gonna be filed.
Minutes from the 20th of September.
Okay, what I did was I made copies because I got it from Joyce, I put it together, I couldn't print anything, I printed, taking vacation, I guess. And so until tomorrow, when I get it back. So I decided, I made copies downstairs, them to everybody. I tried to send out the email wouldn't go out. I don't know what's going on, if it's just the printer, if it's the computer too, so. Maybe in tomorrow, hopefully, to look at it. See, it was jealous because I took a vacation, so I wanted to go too. So I don't know if you want to take a minute to read through them and check them out.
What's this?
Brandon's copy.
Oh.
You know,
Did they really come out 364 degrees, 46 degrees?
I'm trying to use the recorder for these.
That's almost a circle. They just turn out around the circle, go right back to the
I don't
same
know.
thing.
So have Debbie send it back.
I don't know what they did. I missed that one.
Just use the cable thing. Now that I have a good headset.
Or you could say it would be 14 degrees.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know, but
Sorry, I had to do it this way, but easiest way to figure out how.
Yeah, one on,
Did I say this?
on the Wheelock Road one, it says turn the house 346 degrees.
Oh.
So what was it supposed to be? I don't know.
Was it 360? Was it supposed to be?
360 is a circle.
one circle, so
Yeah,
you
so they
didn't move
turn.
it at all, did they?
36? Even
I don't know.
Margaret.
Just strike out the number of degrees and say
Yeah.
they turned the house.
They turned the house, yeah.
Take it out, because I don't remember what she had said. I'll take that out.
I don't know what that was either.
I think they're demolishing the shed still.
It's on the flash, and then we can fix it. Well, when I did this one.
I think I'm gonna leave the sheds. I think,
I don't know the
I
number.
don't know if they were, I think they're gonna leave the sheds.
We're not putting that thing up now, because I asked them to total up the square footage
Yeah.
of sheds that they're removing, adding that much more to the house.
So we're gonna table those for some corrections. That's not what that's gonna
We
happen.
can just,
Do you know what the second issue was? There's a second issue, wasn't there? Like 3 sheds and no sheds or something?
there's just the way of, on the sheds, I don't know if it makes that much difference. We gotta do a COC and then they gotta redo it anyway, but.
Which one was that for?
47 Carrier Lane.
Oh, yeah, well, they continued to this meeting, but now they're continuing again. They have to go through UVA, and they won't be going there till December, so that's why they moved them to the December meeting.
Well, I think it says, building demolished with 3 sheds remaining, so that's,
It's,
are they demolishing those 3 sheds or not?
that's, I don't know, that's what we don't know. But they gotta go with some kind of variance through
Yeah.
UVA. And they still do not have the DEP number that I have. I I don't have a number for them yet. I have not gotten the email. Usually get it from DEP, they send you an email with the paperwork. I haven't gotten it yet. So we couldn't do anything anyways without the number.
Need a motion to either approve them or approve them with changes?
Everyone go through 'em?
Or do you want to table it, or what do you want to do?
Well, I think we can make a motion to approve them and take out the degrees on that other part.
Yep.
And what do you wanna do about the sheds? Doesn't really matter too much.
I believe that they were gonna leave the sheds,
I thought so, and Bob thought they were taking them down, but
and
That
they're
can
gonna come
be-
back in
they
anyway.
gotta come back in
Yeah,
anyway, so
no.
that's not a big issue to my way of thinking.
So that was a motion you made?
Yes, to accept them after we remove the thing about turning it the
Number of degrees?
346 degrees, yeah.
I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Right on time.
So it's
Hmm?
7:20.
You're right back on.
Right back on time? I didn't know I was off. 47 Carrier Lane is looking to continue to December 20th.
Did you give a reason for that, Wanda?
Yeah, they're the ones that have to go to ZBA,
Okay.
and they can't get their date until December.
Gotcha.
Make a motion to continue to December 20th at 7:05.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Should we have waived the reading of those?
Oh, yeah, that was a continuation, so we need to, yeah, waive the reading.
Make a motion to waive the reading of 28 Wheelock Road
And,
and 47 Carrier Lane.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
158 Hartness Road on board business. Ratify a complaint.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I visited the site today, so it's very fresh in my mind. The issue is that some trees were cut down at, what's the address again? 158 Hartness Road. It looks to me like there was a dead tree, a snag,
Mm-hmm.
and a branch fell off onto a chain link fence and damaged the fence, so somebody decided to have the whole tree taken down.
Yep.
The tree fell over onto the property of 77 Leland Hill Road, which is owned by Sten Brody.
Yep.
And then another tree got cut down, and then another tree got cut down, and I counted a total of 10 trees, large and small, that got cut down either right next to the brook, in the wetland next to the brook. So, this shouldn't have been done.
Yep.
And why, and the majority of those trees, I'd say 7 or 8 of them, happen on Mr. Brody's land. And now the trees are down, they're in the wetland, they're in the brook. The question is, do you want to do, it was Skyhook that did the cutting. So it's a question, what do you wanna do with the owner of 158 Hardness? Do you wanna send them an enforcement order? What shall the remedy be? Et cetera, et cetera. Mr. Brody said, well, the trees that were cut down on my land are my trees, and the trees that were on the other guy's land that fell onto my land are now my trees. And I'd like to cut them up for cordwood and take them out. I asked him, well, how are you gonna get them out? He says, I have an excavator, I will lift them and not drag them up the hill. That's what he'd like to do. So, what would the commission like to do?
I was down there 2 weeks ago when the complaint first came in, and I talked to Mr. Brody, I talked to the guy who initially called Skyhook, and he just wanted that one tree taken down. But the estimate was a lot of money, and his wife's got cancer and he couldn't afford it, so Skyhook, when I talked to Jason from Skyhook, he said, well, he was doing him a favor and he took the tree down and he just put it in the wetland because, put it in the woods because he didn't say wetland, he put it in the woods. So.
Creating a habitat, no doubt.
Yeah, so, anyway, that's the story. So the man did not know that Skyhook was gonna cut down all these additional trees. They just went in and did it. So, that's the story there.
Can he get the trees out without doing any further damage, Mr. Brody, for
Yeah, in
Cordwood?
fact, there's a nice wide open area. It's wooded, but there's a nice, pretty wide open area going from Mr. Brody's driveway down the hill that he could chain the now logs and lift them up and bring them up the hill. I think it is possible. There's still gonna be a lot of brush, which left in the wetlands, no big deal. It's all part of nature. But he wants to take the large stuff so he can have this cordwood. I personally don't see a problem with that. If you leave it there might be problems with the brook's flow, because there's so much in the brook, it could back up, divert, because it's gonna be hitting logs. It might be a good thing anyway to take it out.
He has called his lawyer and he may have an issue there, but I don't think it's our issue.
An issue with what?
An issue with who?
The neighbor?
With Skyhook cutting the
Yeah.
trees on his property, so that's not our issue.
Some kind of unlawful trespass and damage.
I don't have a problem if he wants to take the logs.
No, there's mediation. That's where it gets interesting. Getting rid of the woods, one thing, and there's an all wooded area.
It's all wooded. If they would just cease and desist, I think that would be fine. It's not like they cut a whole area. Just cease and desist, let it grow back. But the question is, I think, do you want to inflict any pain on the owner of 154 Hardness in order to divert any kind of thing like this happening again, and just write him a very sternly worded letter?
I would guess a letter would do.
What about Skyhook? Should we send them a letter saying
Sure.
that we're aware that from,
And in a letter, I'd say something like, we're aware of unauthorized cutting of vegetated trees in a regulated wetland area, and cease and desist, and any further activity will result in fines of up to $300 a day. That should be enough, I think.
And that'd get enlarged to any area, not just that one, right?
Yeah.
The one this guy-
Any
yeah.
area in town, yeah. Be aware. This is your warning.
Yep. It's your first pass. 5 was the Providence Turnpike. Green Machine, they didn't take Green Machine down, did they?
no,
Building next to it,
That-
that's in Millbury, isn't it?
there was nothing there. I went down there. Everything is there. I don't know where this complaint came in from, but the only thing they said was the pond in
Who's they?
back, there was
Who's they?
Wanda sent me down there.
I got the complaint over, it was on the recorder. That
And
something was
there
going on there.
was there a name on the complaint?
No,
When we changed the
no.
practice to, we don't do it
Was it
without a
an anonymous
complaint?
complaint?
And then Joyce,
Wanda. Wanda,
I sent Joyce
Wanda.
down there.
was it an anonymous complaint?
No,
We know who made the complaint. I've asked twice now, who made the
I
complaint?
can't tell you. It's on
You can't tell
paperwork.
us.
I don't have the paperwork.
I had this issue recently, Mr. Chairman, in another town, and the town council was there. And the town council said to the commission that the person who makes the complaint has to be, that their name has to be made available.
Yeah, and the
Be-
phone number.
And not just secret to the Conservation
Hmm.
Commission.
To the
And
public.
it's a constitutional, United States constitutional thing, that a person has the right to be able to confront their accuser. So I do not, and that sounds right to me. I'm not a lawyer, but the lawyer said that sounds right to me. And I would recommend not,
Investigating.
Yeah, I wouldn't investigate anonymous complaints.
Well, what it was I went to the green machine and, you know, here they are working on stuff, and he said, well, you know what it might have been when somebody was going by on the highway? 'Cause there was a balloon, a basket of a balloon was in the pond, and the balloon had come down into the pond, and he says when the wind blows, it kinda comes up. So that might have been what somebody
Maybe
saw.
that's what they saw, yeah.
Yeah, there's no new construction there,
So
right?
Oh, yeah.
there was,
There's all kinds of new construction there.
Is there?
Oh, yeah, not a green machine at the lot next
The
door.
house
Yeah.
next to it
Yeah.
got tore down, right?
There you
That's
go.
Milbury.
That's Millbury.
Oh, the house
That's
got torn down?
That's where I started.
yeah.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, the line was right there, because the first time I went by Green Machine and I ended up at Doranzo's, and they said, oh, that's Milbury, so.
So here's five,
Yeah, so-
here's five Worcester Providence
No,
Turnpike.
made the call.
So you get the water in the wetland right at the back
Yeah.
property line. So what was the issue?
They
There
throw the
wasn't-
building next to Green Machine down, which is in Millbury.
Then that's-
The building next to Green Machine was still there when I was there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They're doing work out back. They got a foundation dug in.
There
and all
there
that
was
stuff.
a silt fence
Mhm.
out there.
So where they're working over here? This is the town line. So where they're working in Millbury next door?
Yep.
Must be.
That's Millbury's problem.
Yep.
Yeah,
Moving
so
right along.
whoever put the complaint about the wrong town,
And
so, you know,
I'm
but
curious.
when they said, oh, the Green Machine building's gone, I'm like,
One, when people call us and they're not gonna give their name, please tell them that we can't do anything if they're gonna be
it
anonymous.
was on the recorder.
Well, if
I-
they
I
call you
normally
live.
would tell 'em I
Okay.
need, you know, your name and everything, so we could get back to you.
So if it's on the recorder and there's no name, then we can't
And
do
The
anything.
number was restricted, so.
Moving right along. 169 8 Lots Road, which I will have to recuse myself on. There's a routing slip for that, Linda.
Yes, there is. It should be up there somewhere. Oh, put it up there.
You're in charge.
Yeah.
Oh, here it is. Right here. This is they're taking it out of chapter land. So it's, I mean, I don't know, they want to know if it's anything the town should keep or whatever.
This one you emailed us on last week, right?
Yeah.
So I would guess that we don't have any.
So
This is the
whatever
big
you want to
field.
write.
Across from my house.
Across- Yeah, that's,
Is it all of it?
subdivided recently.
Is it just one lot or all of it?
It's new lots, so, let me highlight it. So it's this lot right here, it's a big lot. They have new lots, and one of them follows this stone wall, which is, you know, got a hedgerow like this, and it comes up, follows, this field. So this is a lot, and this is the new lot that they're gonna be creating, that they're talking about.
There's a driveway from a lot back there.
It's a new lot that was created that follows the,
I might have taken and made a map.
follows along here, then turns here, comes up.
Sometimes I get the map
It doesn't go like that, Brandon, because there's a lot out behind and
Okay, here's what it looks like. There's the lots, right there.
you got a drawing here, Bob.
It came in last week, didn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought that was the.
That's the
It's got
entire
six
piece, but
lots.
that
Yeah,
one
it's
that's
been lot
broken
four.
up's been broken into two lots since then, so it's the center one.
They're only pulling one lot out now, right?
No, I don't think so.
Whatever's on that map is what they're pulling out. I got that from downstairs in the assessor's map.
So they're pulling
So the-
five lots out and leaving
That
this?
original piece, as I understand it anyway, is what they're taking out.
Yeah, they already sold the lot off
Yeah.
out back that has a driveway up to the front.
Did that go to a house lot?
Yeah.
Wasn't there a piece they gave back to the state or something?
5 years ago or something like
Yeah.
that. They did
Yeah,
all that.
oh, okay.
But that
And the one they're
What I
just
do is I
now
go down
selling
on
is
Nick's
this
map.
piece here.
And I look at how these guys.
So we don't have any
and
interest in the
that's what I
town
do.
buying it, right?
I'd like to preserve my view, but I don't think the town is gonna go along with that.
Good spot for a fire station.
Library.
Ooh,
That lot right there? Or is it,
Yeah, but they're broken up
That
more.
one has been sold.
yeah,
that's,
so,
that's the driveway I was talking about.
yeah, so these are the different lots now. And, you know what,
The answer's the same.
these are, so, these are all the lots that correspond with this field.
Mm.
There's a wet spot up in here.
Where the driveway goes in?
No.
No,
It's got a culvert pipe to nowhere, doesn't it?
there's wetlands in the back, but way back.
That was Thompson's, right?
George
Yeah.
Thompson.
Yeah.
Jimmy Cronin bought it from me. Or stole it, depending on who you listen to. We're all set on that?
Great spot for a full solar farm.
They tried.
Or did they?
Oh, yeah. Real odd. Didn't work. 51 Burbank Road. What is the discussion on that?
Do you wanna go to 7:35 first, because that's a public hearing, new one?
We could do
So you can give
that.
you a quick update, you get a minute.
Go ahead.
Mr. Sangamano, applied for a certificate of compliance. I said, Mr. Sangamano, you gotta send your consultant out there to write a report and all that and send it in. You can't just say, can you do an inspection?
Yep.
That being said, I did an inspection anyway. It's looking pretty good,
Mhm.
but we need the paperwork.
There you go.
Which I haven't gotten.
735, 6 Auburn Heights. Come on down.
This is new filing.
Sutton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, October 18th, 2017, at 7:35, at Sutton Town Hall, 4 Oxford Road, Sutton, Mass. Purpose of this hearing is to review a notice of intent submitted to the Conservation Commission by Eric Renard. The project consists of replacing a failed septic system and proposed addition within 100 feet of the wetland buffer zone. Map 24, parcels 33 on 6 Auburn Heights, Sutton, Mass.
Good evening, my name is Raouf Moncarius with Alpha Omega Engineering. I'm here with Eric, the owner. We have a failed septic system in almost the same location. Actually, it's much closer to the wetland than the proposed one. The property is surrounded by wetland from everywhere. We're asking for almost every variance we can get from the Board of Health. Existing septic is underground water. Groundwater is 2 feet deep.
Mhm.
System is about 2.5 to 3 feet deep. So the new septic will be exactly 50 feet from most of the wetland. Will be raised. We're doing retaining walls to keep it away from the house. We got almost the minimum required for a well. And we're also doing an addition where the driveway used to be for the house.
Ralph,
Yes.
not to interrupt you, those are the new.
Yes, those are the revised plans. I
So
was
they can look.
on communication with Brandon, and he said he requested a few changes on the plan, so I did the changes. Basically adding the filtration system for the proposed addition.
What was that? I didn't hear that, the last part you said.
So the changes that Brandon requested is just adding an infiltration system for the proposed addition.
Okay, for the roof runoff.
For the roof runoff, and we did that already. And also adding a note that 12-inch diameter, 100% biodegradable bottles.
And extend the,
And extend the erosion controls all the way to the property line.
no open ends.
Awesome.
Otherwise, this is, yeah, a little addition, but septic repair, I think it's in the best location, the well's up front. I always think it's better to have the well out back by the wetland and the septic up front where it's drier, but it's an existing house, unless you have the desire to make them abandon the well and drill a new one so the septic system can be in the front yard, which has never happened before, although I have seen it happen in other towns.
Yeah, the problem is the abutting wells also are
Right.
within the same area, that's a problem.
So I think it's the most reasonable place. It's more than 50 feet away from the nearest BBW. The addition and the septic system are in existing lawn. No trees need to be taken down. It's all lawn, and they kept the north edge of the addition exactly 25 feet away from the wetland. So that's a plus. Actually, not a plus. It's just the way it's supposed to be done.
Comments, Andy?
Oh, looks good to me.
Good work.
Mr. T?
So we gotta address the proposed addition, I think. In a form of mitigation or something, and that is, it's in the buffer zone. It's a structure in the buffer zone, or don't we have to?
It's existing lawn,
Usually we let that go.
yeah.
Okay.
I have
Yeah,
no
that's
problems.
the way it's been done. If
Yeah.
you're doing work within existing lawn, there's no alteration to vegetation. There's not even really any grading going on here, so usually mitigation hasn't been required for that kind of thing. But if he was going into the wood line, yeah.
You-
And even so, the wood line is within 25 feet of the wetland, so that wouldn't be allowed anyway.
And there's no problem with the size of the addition?
I don't think so. They've kept the addition 25 feet away from the BBW in the existing lawn, that meets standard.
If you want to say the mitigation was putting the infiltrators in but, yeah.
Whenever there's new roof proposed,
Yep.
this commission's policy has been to infiltrate it.
Yep.
And the infiltrators have to be 50 feet away from the leach field, which he's done.
I have no issues.
Anyone from the public have an issue with this project?
Okay, make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to issue an order of conditions.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Might have to sign that.
Sign this thing. Brandon, did you forget the pre-construction meeting speech?
That'll be, that's
Yeah, those
in
conditions.
the order.
That's one of the first ones in a long time that's in and out in the same day.
You're welcome.
Good job.
Good job.
But that goes to show they got the plans in time. Review, right?
Well, they modified them. Suppose I should sign it today.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Now, on the next one, I did send out an agenda, but there was no way of contacting him. I
Who,
don't know,
contacting who?
Daniel Snyder, he didn't have
We
Does
went
he
by
live in
there
that
today.
log cabin?
no, he lives in the one across the street,
Across the
on
street.
22.
How-
And
So is he not answering his mail?
Is that the one that left the plow and the
I
snow
don't have a number.
Well, I checked that out today.
still there?
The plow's gone,
Okay.
which is an improvement, but doesn't look like much of anything else is happening.
Any of those trees planted? No?
I didn't see any.
It wasn't trees, it was shrubs.
Shrubs?
Yeah.
Grass planted?
You wanna do-
Give him more time,
Send another letter. Tell them the next action is gonna be enforcement order.
Quickly running out of the planting season.
This is more or less.
Well, I don't think he was supposed to plant grass, or was he? Or was he?
And he was supposed to.
Yeah.
without looking at it, I'm not sure. Do you wanna?
too fast in my notes if you want to. I have it out here.
Next thing on board business is need for site visits. There be any reason you weren't doing these, Brandon?
78 Torrey Road, I went there, they're all set, they got the letter from first of all, they did an as-built,
Mm-hmm.
and Paul Hutnack sent in a letter. And they sent that in January. I said, not so fast, you still have one more growing season on your, the replication area, the little vernal pool that you created, and the restoration area that you did for the really bad logging job.
Yep.
So that season just ended.
Yep.
Last week, their biologist sent in the letter.
Mm-hmm.
I checked it out, all looks well, they are ready for a certificate of compliance.
And they
I'm
made the
very happy
application?
about that.
They made the application,
I
They,
have it, yeah.
they haven't, they've done everything.
so we can vote on that this
You
evening.
may.
There.
I would be very happy to see this one off the books.
Need a motion.
Yeah,
Make a motion
correct.
to sign a certificate of compliance for 78 Torrey Road.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
That one went on for a long time.
That started before my time.
And there you are making
First
the
time I
motion.
ever saw that one was 2011.
yeah.
Someone else can make the motion when you need it.
All right.
Okay. Next one is 42 Smith Road. I just performed a pre-construction meeting with them last week.
So they're not really ready for a certificate of compliance yet?
That, yes, correct.
See how much I've gained?
You're getting good with these acronyms.
That's the file I've been looking for.
44 Lackey Road is one that I haven't gotten to yet. This is the only one. They allegedly did, that was a single-family house lot, and the mitigation was invasive species removal, and a little isolated wetland near the road that fills with water. And got a letter from Margaret Washburn, said that it's been done, but there's still some bittersweet vine that may need to be taken care of. But then she went into a description of, she's not quite sure if it's Oriental bittersweet or American bittersweet, and she went on to describe the differences between the two. And I don't really care. If it's bittersweet,
Just want it gone.
I just want it gone, yeah.
So they're not ready.
I'd say they're not ready, yeah.
And they would have to take action before we would take action. Tell us that they were done.
Yes, and I'd have to do the inspection and be satisfied that the bittersweet vine is gone, enough
Yep.
to,
Right time of the year to do that?
yeah. Yeah, bittersweet vine, yeah, this is a good time to play, we'll have a few more weeks to do it.
Does it make sense we send a letter saying we don't know where they are? We'd like to get it closed out?
Not yet.
Please advise.
Not yet.
No.
Okay, so
We're
you
not there
put it
yet.
on the next meeting, or just move it?
We
Leave
just-
it on there for the next meeting. $198 Manchester?
How about 44
I
Marble?
got 44 Marble. Yeah, this was the
Well,
wrong.
44 Marble is ready as well.
Yeah, I have the paperwork from her here. It got sent in from her, look at that. Yeah, can we sign?
Make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 44 Marble Road.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
And the 612 Central Turnpike. Harry Valencourt.
I believe they have plantings to do.
They-
I,
They've,
think they're done.
well,
they've
done plantings.
yeah, I sent
I don't
her,
know
I
if
have
they've done them
everything here from Margaret
I
Bacon.
haven't been over there to check to see if they've done them all.
Do you want the as-built plan? To go
Or,
do that, 44 Marble?
if you have an extra, that'd be great.
Well, it's not next to the.
No, if it's not extra, it needs to stay in this file. They only sent in one. Keep it in the file.
Okay, so, I mean, if you want, I can take pictures of it also. If you want.
file, it's gone down this way. Oh,
What? Oh, that's for, no, this is for 612 Gary Valancourt.
Oh, I thought you meant,
So I don't know, do you wanna look at it, or?
I did speak to Gary Monday night briefly. He did tell me he planted, I don't remember how many, but oak trees. And I did notice driving by there have been some trees planted. I did not stop. I didn't look closely.
creating my pile here. I'm gonna be busy.
Yeah, he came in after, it was last week, after the other meeting.
Which is,
But.
That's Gary's as-built.
I was there last on August 2nd. There was the issue of the wraparound driveway that was supposed to be long, and I remember the commission saying, okay, that's fine. But you needed to do the plantings.
Yep, there's an as-built here, but you gotta go trust and verify.
The as-built doesn't reflect the drawings. Or the plan, it does not reflect the plantings.
The plantings, yeah.
So, in August, there were no plantings done, and I haven't been back to the site since, to tell you the truth.
It's been done since then, but
Okay.
once again, I don't know where they were down there in the end.
How many plants were these trees they supposed to put in? Some like
A lot.
25, I wanna say.
Mm.
The list.
We'll check the minutes. I'm sure it says in the minutes.
It says in the order of conditions.
Hope so.
No, because the order of conditions was changed in these other minutes.
Patio.
Yeah, nice looking place.
That's why I can't find that.
Very respectful to the historic architecture. Well, I'll put that on the list for 2 weeks
Yep.
from now.
You inspect it and then
Which
I'll
one,
go
yeah?
to 44 Lackey, and I'll do this one. Count the bushes.
What's the other one? Who's the left one?
612, it's gonna be on my list.
I'm just looking to see if I can see how many, did you write it in the, 22 trees and 22 shrubs? That's what's written on the special conditions.
I do, when he came in with the patio issue, didn't we agree to less trees and shrubs than?
No, I don't believe we did,
I'm sure we did.
because they were supposed to,
From me?
I thought they were coming back in to discuss that, and they didn't.
That's why I say it should be in the minutes.
Because they didn't want to plant that many, and you said, well,
And we talked about, they were planting them right up against the tree line in the back of the house, and it just didn't make any sense.
but I don't think we ever resolved that issue because, I don't think we ever decided, I thought they were supposed to come in the next meeting and
I
talk
think
about
we asked them
that.
to do a planting schedule,
Yeah,
showing what they could do.
and we'll see what they actually
Yep.
did, see if it comes out close.
I'll take more pictures.
7:50, project update for 115 Leland Hill, we discussed earlier.
Yep,
I believe you said we're gonna send
another letter.
another lovely letter.
Your last chance letter.
Yep.
Anything else? 198 Manchog Road, Kevin Steele.
I sent another letter, no response.
The only issue is that, well, one or two issues. The silt fence was re-erected, but it's not towed in.
Mhm.
And there's just some grass growing. Because it keeps on eroding down the hill, going past the poorly maintained erosion controls and into the areas it's not supposed to be.
Is this a send yet another letter saying we're gonna do an inspection on X date.
And
The
if we
the
don't,
erosion controls,
need to be towed in, and if they're not,
planting the lawn, we all agree he needs to do it, but till he asks for
Yeah, it
the
all seems
certificate
to do
of
it.
compliance, we have no leverage to make him do it. Unless I'm missing something.
It's not gonna get much grass to grow now either.
No. The erosion controls need to be
Cleaned up.
in pristine condition. That's about the limit of our authority, I believe, is that
right
correct?
now it is, yeah.
Yep.
There's no progress on the guideline changes, and I'm not even gonna pretend to say that I'm working on it, because I am oversaturated with work in general, and I haven't had time to even think about it.
There's one other thing we need to do, bylaw review. I sent everybody that package. We can't do anything until the May meeting, but if we increase the bylaw fee, if part of the fee would go into the wetlands account, part would go into the general fund. So, in the packet that I sent, it's from all the different towns that I collected,
And I sent you all an
Review it.
email today as well, if you saw it.
check
Didn't
it
see
out,
that
see
today.
what you think.
I did.
Town of Berkeley. And the-
Berkeley?
Oh, yeah.
Where is Berkeley?
It is near Freetown and Fall River.
Okay.
It's right along the Taunton River.
It's hidden well down there. Never heard of it
It
before.
is very well hidden,
Yep.
yes.
What, did you send me
Berkeley,
a fee schedule?
they get you coming and going.
$25,
They got NOI fees,
That's what
RDA
our
fees, and
bylaw
then if
fee
you
is.
want an amendment, that's another fee. If you
It
want a
got
certificate of
changed.
compliance, that's another fee.
Remember when you did the bylaw that had that page that one through, A through J or K, that Mark had created? So much for each, the single one was $25, and then as it went up to the industrial and condos and stuff.
Well, you could probably send out what it is, so just so we have it to compare.
See if I can,
So when we go to discuss this, do we have to have a,
we have to, it
has to be a public-
A public meeting. Yeah, so it has to be open to the public. So, but that's why I sent you the information, so that we can figure out when we wanna do this meeting. Is it something you wanna do on an off Wednesday? You know, like sometimes we have 5 Wednesdays or whatever.
I don't see any reason we couldn't do it at a regular
Or we
meeting.
could do it at a regular meeting.
It's days like this,
Yeah.
4, 8 o'clock,
Yeah.
unless there's some
Yeah.
good stuff that comes in.
Yeah, November, December is usually
Slow.
kind of quiet. Then when I get the information from downstairs as to when we need to submit it, then I'll have to do that.
Is this thing something that needs to go on the agenda?
This will go on
For a
the
public
agenda
meeting,
for
or-
the
yeah.
Public meeting,
It'll go
okay.
on the warrant for the spring, because that's when all the budgets and everything get done.
which means you're going to the spring meeting
We'll send
too?
out our fees.
I enjoy going to town meetings.
Yeah, I'll have to find it. The notice of intent fees are no control over us. Bylaw fee is the only thing that's in control, and it's $25. Any filing,
For instance, on the Auburn, which one of those is a bylaw fee?
it's included. That's where the
So
problem
I'm not
comes in.
comparing anything when I look at Auburn, right?
Yeah, because if you look, like the crest of determination is 25. I was trying to figure out, okay, so application for a permit notice, they've got $100. I take that to say that's over and above the NOI fee, because the NOI fee is set by the state. We have nothing to do with that. It comes in, is set by the state with the $12.50.
We've got to include that, but we could be more.
Yeah.
Well, so each one of these, when I was looking through it, I'm going, well, gee, that must be over and above what the NOI fees are, or the RDAs. And I had a hard time figuring it out too, and that's when I realized, oh, well, maybe they're pretty high. Because, you know, like, I think there's an NOI fee there somewhere. Because this one just says requested determination. We don't have a bylaw fee for determination. Maybe we should.
Yeah, maybe we should.
Notice of intent. Okay, so if their notice of intent fee is $67.50 for a single family or addition or whatever, this is $100 over and above that. In single family, used
Yeah,
to
but we
single
have-
family, so it's like, that's when I figured it out and said, oh, okay. So ours is $25, that's it, because when the,
Yeah, but we've got
bylaw
other
changed,
fee charges.
the other fee charges would be the NOI fee, the advertising fee, I'm having them write it out right to the holding landmark, which is $42, we have no control over that. And then, we have Brandon's fee.
Yep.
So we have the 4 fees, but, the only one we have real control over is the bylaw. And it goes
Do
into
these
general fund.
fees, do you know if these fees include the consulting fees?
That I don't know, some of them didn't have consultants, some did. Let's see.
Other towns don't
They
have
don't
a
seem to, some of them have
consultant fee
agents.
schedule like this town does.
Says
Basically,
actual
what they
cost.
do is they tell folks the first meeting, yeah, we're gonna want a peer review on this, we're gonna put it out to bid, and, at the next meeting, we'll decide and tell you how much money, and then at the third meeting, maybe we'll be ready for a first review.
Sounds like people would be awfully upset when
They
By that third
they
We
meeting.
used
usually
to
are.
have 5 and 6 meetings,
So,
because we didn't have, consultants.
right, so almost 10 years ago, I came up with a proposed fee schedule which was accepted. And that allows people to just put the money in the
Yeah,
kitty
be done with it.
immediately. And in more cases than not, I'm ready for review in the very first meeting and give my,
Yep.
my assessment. Which, has been widely accepted despite the fact that people don't wanna pay because at least it gets done quickly.
One other thing I saw in some of these is they have a fee for extending it and for,
Certificates of
compliance and those things, and, you know, we had $50,000 10 years ago, and now we're down to nothing. I mean,
And then when that, ILOC fee schedule changed from, after, you know, you'd redone the bylaw, that was, like, it'd be $25 for a single-family addition or whatever, and then as it would go up, like for subdivision, for, commercial, for industrial, those fees were different, cause it was like up to that $100,000 thing, that's what was removed out of the old bylaw. And that diminished, cause some of them were $500 going in, 25 would go into the general fund, and the $475 would go into the wetlands account. We don't have that anymore. That went with the rest of the bylaw, the old bylaw.
so that was our
It
mistake.
was that,
We trying to justify
not really.
Brandon's salary, or what are we trying to do here?
No, his is fine, it's the
No,
bylaw
the-
fee itself,
No,
just.
that's
It's
not
the
correct.
wetlands account that we're down to
wetlands
nothing.
account.
And that wetlands account does what?
The wetland account, that's the money taken in through the bylaw. That's money that belongs exclusively to the Conservation Commission to buy materials, go to pay for memberships, go to training, hire a lawyer.
Conservation land.
Conservation, yeah, all that kind of stuff. It's money that belongs to the commission and not to the general fund.
So if our meetings, we get $500 for meetings and $500 for, subscription, like to MACC. So when you wanna go to MACC, the Holy Cross in the fall, say, or in the spring, that money comes out of there. It's a specific amount, I think it's $110 per person, comes out of there. When that is diminished and say 5 of you wanna go, I would take it out of the wetlands account, which we can't do now.
Because there's no money
There's-
left.
there's nothing.
Yeah, I would go to the thing on the 28th, but
Right,
there's no
and
money,
Part
so.
of Wanda's salary was taken out of that account, like
Right.
for the last 3 years, which
So
is.
then we took care of that too, that stop, well, the meetings are still coming out. So as it
And
stands right now.
The town has agreed to pick up the fee for the consultant sitting in during the meetings, but we need to,
I need to still remove it from that account. I I've been told, just keep that account the way it is, keep doing what
And
you're
they'll
doing.
fund
At
it.
the end of the, the end of the.
They're gonna see that
fiscal,
there's-
they'll fund it.
The town is going to see that there's money in the account to pay Brandon and Wanda. They recognize there's no money there now, and they're going to fund it.
The big mystery to me that has never been explained, even by the people who were here at the time, was how did that account get to $50,000 to begin with? No clue.
Well, it depends on what the account was set up for. If it was set up for, as Joyce just said, for purchasing of land, I could see that account being much larger. A lot of towns have got an account, 0.5% or something goes into a fund every year to build up to buy land. Now, I don't know if that's.
We didn't approve that.
The town,
Well, I'm
this
just saying,
fund
some
didn't approve
towns
that.
have got situations, so I don't know what this $50,000, maybe that was to offset or to do that type of thing, I don't know. I mean, I think you gotta back into it a little bit. How much money do you need?
Right,
Well,
I
it was
used
50
it
and
to
now it's
buy
400, so-
the laptop, for instance.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that
exactly.
was
Say
like
this-
$500 or
there you go.
$600.
That's the town's
That's the
obligation.
town's obligation.
Yes.
Well,
It's basically, it's for the
account
things
for-
that the Conservation Commission would like for themselves that the town isn't necessarily willing to buy.
I understand. How much is that? Is that $500 a year, or is it $1,000 a year?
Don't know.
I
That's
don't
up to
know
you.
either, so until you tell me, give me some idea on that, I can't tell you how much I think we should impose additional costs on fees.
When I first came, there was, I think it was like 27,000 in that account. As time went on, because you got the industrial park, you had Home Depot that was coming in that did not come in. Money that was collected from that through the notice of intent all went into that account. So it built it up, and as time went on, people built houses, they built subdivision, the money went in that account. We weren't really using it until we started going to like MACC, and I'd take some money out of that for that. And
But we
then,
didn't really start using it until the town decided to take your wages out of it.
Right,
That's when it went downhill.
right.
yeah,
Okay, so it was not
It's
being
done,
used
yeah.
for what it was intended to be used for to begin with.
and we weren't getting as many incoming notice of intents as we had been at the beginning. It was unbelievable, the amount of notice of intents we were getting coming in.
One of the things I wanted to do was I was on the master plan committee, and one of the things that came up in this charrette that we had was, trails, walking trails, and people wanted to do that. Now, we have a certain amount of land that the Conservation Commission oversees, but I don't know where it is. And, that was one of the things that I would like to work on. And you go by Melbury, and they've got trails, and Dudley has trails and conservation land, and they have signs up there. Well, I'd like to do that here.
So that fund could pay for those signs if
Yeah.
we knew where the land was.
Or developing the trails, or,
Or
we
whatever.
just need to identify where
It
the,
could also, if the town's not willing to pay for it, it could pay for a surveyor to stake out the bounds, it could, a lot of stuff associated with that kind of land, public land use, which the Conservation Commission, you're right, is
Well,
in
there's
charge of a lot of
three
that.
that I know of.
And-
You've got Marion's Camp,
Well,
you've got Waters Farm, and you've
One
got
person at a
Charles.
time, Wanda. Brandon was talking. Please.
no, Wanda's right. In Sutton, it seems to me that planning does the majority, the heavy lifting on open space. And there's nothing wrong with that, it's just the dynamic that is, kind of equalized over the years.
And open space is different than the conservation land.
Right, well, they're both forms of open space. And some towns, the Conservation Commission is exclusively in charge of open space because in 1957, when Conservation Commissions were first established in Massachusetts, that was their entire purpose, was open space. There was no Wetlands Protection Act to oversee not until the 70s. So that's what they did. They were in charge of procuring and then overseeing and maintaining open space. So there's nothing wrong, and in fact, it's part of the mandate for conservation commissions to do that kind of thing with open space. But if you have certain conservation lands that the commission has specific interest in doing something with, then you could use that wetlands account to help you buy like a little GPS, a little Garmin GPS unit to go out and locate stuff and maybe figure out what a trail system could be. And then, get some Eagle Scouts to make it and that kind of thing.
There is an open space committee though, too.
Right. Well, that's the dynamic that has been established. Same thing, it's similar to the stormwater review. Stormwater review is specifically outlined in the Wetlands Protection Act in the regulations. But planning, it has a contract with Graves Engineering, and the applications that go to planning, or come here, also go to planning. So the Conservation Commission just waits to see what Graves Engineering does for the planning board, and it applies to here. The Conservation Commission has the right to hire or require through 53G the applicant to hire that person for commission's review, but that's just the dynamic that is evolved. So there's nothing wrong with it. It works, that's just how it is. And if you wanna do something with conservation land on your own, so be it.
How much money do we need?
That's up to you.
$1 million.
As long as you can justify it.
And that was talked about at the last town meeting.
That's the problem, is how much money you need. You don't know until you need it.
Like,
Well, you've got several years of history here to go by that should give you some inkling as to what the requirements are per year.
I think the biggest expense from that account, besides Wanda's salary, was 1 year, the commission hired a lawyer to look at the bylaw.
we also had the Manchog Dam
Yeah.
thing with lawyers and
Right, so-
everything
right, and
involved.
the commission hired a lawyer
And tie and
with-
bond,
with that fund, outside of town council, to help them with that.
and tie and bond were involved in that too, weren't they?
Yeah.
I forget.
Yes, they were, yeah, so we
So
had,
that's another,
them
because
look at stuff, too.
sometimes the select board on a denial will say, you're crazy, we don't want to pursue your enforcement case, we don't want to pursue your denial, you're on your own. And this is the game that's played, where an applicant basically challenges the commission monetarily. Like, you want to deny us, we're going to appeal it, and we're going to cost you a lot of money. And that the town council has to be approved by the select board to work on the commission's denial and appeal, which can get into the tens of thousands of dollars. And if the select board decides that it's not worth it, then the commission's on its own. So that would be another reason to have money in the account.
Yeah, I know it was over 10,000.
I just recently dealt with and am still dealing with a dragged out appeal in the town of Mattapoisett that to date has cost the town $30,000 to $40,000 in the town council fees to support the commission's stance on the denial. And they tried to pass that cost on to the applicant, but it didn't work. So that's another thing that would eat up a lot of money.
So in other words, if another Manchog Dam comes up, we don't have any money right now.
Don't have any money, and you'd have to rely on the select board to
Agreed.
hire town council to work on it for the commission, which lawyers aren't cheap, and if at any point they say, we don't think this is worth moving forward with, we don't wanna hire town council for this, we don't think it's appropriate to spend town funds on this, then you're on your own.
Well, whatever the new commission is, would be on their own.
Yeah.
It's the best I can see, regardless of how much money you have in a fund, you don't get to spend it the way you see it should be spent.
no, you can't.
How's that?
Well, if we had $50,000 in the fund, and we haven't hired any attorneys other than maybe at the Manchog Dam, where's that money?
Wanda's salary.
That wasn't supposed to be going towards Wanda's salary.
No, it wasn't.
We told
I
him
understand that, and that's why I said, it appears that regardless of how much money we got in there, we don't get to spend the way we want to spend
That,
it anyhow.
I agree. Any money that came out of that fund needed to be specifically approved by the Conservation Commission through
And it
majority
wasn't.
vote, and it wasn't.
I
So,
believe it was.
Well, then I'm wrong, but,
I remember discussing it.
okay, well, the point is, that money that comes in through the bylaws goes into that special fund that is under the 100% control of the commission, and
And
you
back-
can't take it away without.
Back to
vote.
how much money do we want to get, which is really the point, or I think we're entitled to. On an average project, building a new house next to the lake, what would your fees be, Brandon? Just ballpark.
Well, we could take the average of
yeah, but fees-
how much
this
was spent
fees-
each
this
year.
fees are
Under a
And I'll tell
new,
you where I'm going in a minute.
under the new fee schedule,
Starts at 900.
it's gonna be anywhere between 1,500 and 2,000 for a new house on a lake. And that's to take it through NOI review, pre-construction meeting, certificate of compliance, and hopefully nothing else.
And my thought is if we said, maybe we need 10% of that as a bylaw fee, and I'm just putting something out that could be measurable. Does that make sense? It's just a-
Right now, single-family house is a base fee of $500. And then there's
We're
a,
talking about you now.
right, under the current. It's $500 base fee, and then it increases depending on how many linear feet of wetland line there is to review,
Mhm.
and how many square feet of disturbance to a resource area, not buffer zone, but to the actual wetland, the stream, or whatever. How many square feet? Because the idea is if there's more wetland, then it's gonna take more time to review, and if you're doing alteration of a resource area, then you get a replication plan, that, which means you're gonna have to do construction, which means that there's gonna be more work to make for oversight. So the fee goes up.
But at any time during the process, if the fees run out and there's a requirement for more inspection, we can request more fees.
That is correct, and at the time, all I was doing, 10 years ago when I was asked to create this, all I was doing was the initial review, writing the report, coming to the meetings, operating the GIS. And over time, that evolved for me to draft the order of conditions. And then that evolved into pre-construction meetings, and then that evolved into certificate of compliance.
Special conditions.
Yeah, special conditions, certificate of compliance, pre-construction meetings. That initial consultant fee, I was told to overestimate, and then in case something went wrong, and that way we don't have to ask people for more money, because that really irritates people, and then they go to the town manager and complain, and we didn't want that. We'd rather just have more money to begin with and give them back some at the end if there's any left, as opposed to have to ask for more money.
Yep.
But it does happen from time to time. Recently, it's been happening a lot more, which is why part of the reason why we're doing this, so it can include those extra duties that I've been asked to do, which is fine.
He's won $3,000 for delineating wetlands above 100 acres.
You're looking at
Dartmouth, yeah.
Dartmouth is unusual in that they do delineations for you if you wanna pay them.
That's not it's not relative, is it, any of that, at this point,
What?
germane to our discussion?
What's not relative?
Dartmouth's fees for wetlands delineation or anything?
No, because we don't delineate
No, but I mean, we're talking about
bylaw
a
fees.
bylaw fee to accommodate, to make money so that we can go to MAC or go to a conference or something like that. And if, heaven forbid, you ever need a lawyer or something like that, maybe something to go towards that, or, in time.
Hmm?
Your fees, I think, we're pretty well settled with.
That's gonna be separate.
That's what I'm saying, that's
Yeah,
separate.
that's
So,
separate from the bylaw. That's
Right
a
now, we're
consulting
talking
fee.
about the bylaw fee, so,
Right.
whether or not, how much, again, I come back to how much do we need for a bylaw fee? Is $50 rather than 25? I mean,
That's up to you.
does that work? I don't know how much we spend, Wanda. You're the only one who knows how much, not including your salary.
Right, no.
Because your salary shouldn't be in there.
Right at this point, it is.
Right
They're
at this
gonna
point,
fix
it should
that.
not be in there, so the question is,
Well,
how
it
much
can't be
money
in there
do we
anymore
need?
because of
There's
police
no
money.
money. Right
There's
now,
no money.
the town's agreed to pick that up.
Yeah, so,
Now we're trying to
So
rebuild,
we're
or have
trying
some
to
money.
figure out.
correct, so how much do we need? I don't know how much all these fees and expenses are.
Are you able to tell us how much we spent over the past 3 or 4 years, excluding yours?
I
And give
have
us a
all the
ballpark
Excel
number,
sheets and everything.
and
I
we can
could-
back into it that way.
I could print them out and get them to you, or.
Well, I think what we might be interested in would be an average.
Yeah, just it's
Dollar.
dollar average a year.
And then what we'd also like to know is, how many applications per year are we averaging?
That's it, I've got all that information.
So,
They're less now. I mean, we used to do almost 100 or something. Now we're lucky if we make 20 and 25 a year.
and we're not gonna be up to 100 again.
So, no, well, that's it. It's almost like all land's not there. The only land that's left in this town is wet.
No.
So they'll,
But that's
And that's
how
why
it
they'd be
seems.
coming to see us.
Yes, it seems that way, you know?
I knew that from back in the 90s, when they said, Brandon, you might want to do this wetlands thing, because all the good land's going, which means that the longer you're in this, the more in demand you're gonna be, because the only land's left, they're gonna need you.
And, you know, because I have 4 books in my office that I can tell you what the permits, how many were issued, how many years were issued. I've been here 16 years.
So we can take an
So I
average?
have all
Well,
that
there's-
list.
there's been an uptick, since the economy has
Well,
gone
that's
up a
it,
little bit.
yeah, now it's a little more, but.
It's funny, there has been
Wow,
an
we weren't
uptick in the
getting that
economy,
many.
especially the real estate sector, but I haven't seen it in Sutton. Really hasn't upticked in Sutton.
Mhm,
I don't think you will.
mhm, 'cause
Big things that have happened in the last 5 years or so, Leland Hill Estates, and the
Parking
Shopping
146
center.
Boston Road interchange and all of that work. That's basically it. That was.
Flurry of activity down on
Mine is
Manchog.
32.
So, yeah, but
But-
relatively
Yeah, not a lot.
lot,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's, somebody will come in to repoint the walls along the lakes, it's an RDA or.
No, there
That's a
was
repair.
what they're doing.
some like 25 lots that had NOIs with Leland Hill Estates that came in 2012. And the same year, Pleasant Valley Crossing came in and the DOT came in with the upgrades to the highway in Boston Road.
But that's
that's-
state.
and
so we
besides
need
that-
to think of that.
power line.
Small stuff. A lot of septic repairs, single-family house, additions, things like that.
How many RDAs do we do in a year, would you say?
Well, right now, I think we've got 6. Without the paperwork in front of me, I couldn't even begin to tell you.
6 for the entire year?
It's all on my Excel. We go from July to.
July.
Why don't you send the stuff you have on the meetings out, if you would, Wanda, to us, email
The what? The what?
them. The
Statistics.
information you just talked about. Is that
The
huge volume?
Excel, I can try.
I would say if you could get extra money on the RDA, that would be an extra $25
An
per
RDA right
resident.
now is $342.
We got about 15 RDAs so far this
That
year.
covers him, without me looking at the paper. Yeah, you're going from January though. My
Doesn't make
paperwork
any
goes
difference.
from
Yeah, for
fiscal
some,
year.
let me rephrase it, for a 12-month period.
So from January to, what did you say you got?
We got 10 NOIs.
Yeah, we used to have a lot more than that.
And then there's certificates of compliance.
But I have to, when I do my Excel sheets, I have to do it by the fiscal year.
Brandon, could you send us your stuff? That might be easier.
I can give you a summary.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then we'll
for me
cut it
to
back
do
into
I
it.
have to
Yeah.
send you
Well,
sections.
not only
Yeah,
that, you
understandable.
know what the easiest thing is? Once a year, the commission has to do a summary
Right.
to the select board.
I have
And it
that.
tells exactly how many NOIs, COCs, RDAs, and you can just look at that for the last few years.
Yeah, I have that, that's the quarterly reports.
Right.
I can
Average the
send you
last
that.
3 or 4 years together?
Yeah.
And the majority of the outgoing funds is gonna be gone with your salary being changed, right? Wasn't that the biggest expense, was the salary in that account?
Right, well, the
Right
salary's
now
no
it has
longer
been, yeah.
gonna come from the.
Yeah.
the-
Plot's empty.
It's gonna
Sort
go
of.
through that, but it's gonna be funded by the town.
Okay, so can we figure out what the rest of the expenses are and then,
Maybe figure, cover that at least, and then a little bit of
Lately, there
padding.
hasn't been anything. Sometimes in June, it will be that I have to buy ink, printer,
Yeah,
but
for example, town of
other than
Rehoboth,
that-
the whole reason why they don't have
That
a
should be to
wetlands
town.
protection bylaw, they have a fee bylaw. Why do they have, just the fees? Just the fees, and the reason why they created it was to offset the conservation agent's salary, because the town didn't want it coming out of the town funds,
Hmm.
because, I don't know, they're just that
State,
kind of.
it's state mandated.
So I can send you all the quarterly reports, they're done yearly. On the quarterly reports, they go from January to March, January to April, it's every 3 months, quarterly. I can send you those for the past 3 to 5 years, and then you can, you know.
I guess my gut is
Just
telling me.
summarize it each year if you would, wonder
Yeah.
how many there were.
I can't, it's all, it's in quarterly.
You can't look at the
You can,
quarterly.
you can add it up.
When you do the
Wanda, listen to me,
annual
listen to me
report.
for a second if you would. You can't look at each individual quarterly report, write it down and say, first
I
quarter
have
there were
all that.
5, second quarter there were 7.
I have all that.
So you could make a summary of that.
For the whole year.
I have it, it's in the quarterly reports, but it's also in the annual report that you do every year.
So give us that.
So I can give you that along with the others, so you can see what's along with it, because it'll say, 15 NOIs, it's a list, it's about this long,
You
it'll
just want
say
the number.
what was done during that year, but it's only from July to June.
That's
So
all
it's
right.
kind of a,
Still a year
Awkward.
period.
it's not it's not a calendar year.
Well, it's 12-month period.
Yeah, a 12-month
Right.
period doesn't
It's
matter.
still a 12-month period.
My gut tells me that if the biggest expense of the account is gone, then you're gonna see it go up anyway with our regular fees, so do we need to go up that much? You know what I'm saying?
Right,
In and out of the pot. If the out of the pot's gone, it's gonna fill up.
right. Well, the NOI, yeah, the NOI fee goes.
If we
in
could-
there.
Here's Dan's thought,
I,
all right?
I like Dan's thoughts.
If we were to put a goal of having $5,000 in that fund to pay for the meetings and any enforcement thing we might have to fund, it might be a good place to start.
Absolutely.
So now we just gotta
See,
figure
there's
out,
another thing.
How to get there.
We could sell candy bars.
Let's say you have an enforcement order.
you said we?
Right, so say you have an enforcement order, and you want Brendan to work on that. Well, that's not covered by application fees.
Right. That
Is the
goes
town
out
gonna
there.
cover that? I doubt it.
Right.
So, you know, you might wanna have
Back
some money
to-
in the kitty for that.
Right.
That's just someplace to start maybe. And how do we
Sit
get
and-
there?
And say, you know, if, for example, I helped to draft the bylaw pro bono. But if there are any other tasks that you want Brandon to do, that you think should be paid for, I'm not gonna tell you what they are, or what they should be, that's up to you, but you might wanna have some money in the kitty for that.
Just so I have this right, we can't change it till spring meeting, is that right?
Right. Right. it
So we
doesn't
have some time to
change
work
until-
on it, but we
Well,
should.
I
What's
believe
the
July
deadline?
1st.
What's the
I
deadline?
won't know till Laura puts it up.
Usually about March, I think.
It's
no.
It's a
I
month
think
or
it's
two before.
February.
Yeah, February,
I'll get the sheet, and when I get that, I'll email it to everybody so you know when we need
which will be
notice
coming
submitted.
up quick with the holidays.
Yeah, it seems like just the holiday's gone, there's the sheet. She sends it to us by email.
Anything else?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.